Hi there, this is Doris Benter of Library Arts, and today I want to show you how to draw a really exciting, realistic drawing of a cheetah cat face. We'll be working with a photo of a cheetah, and you'll notice this grid system with vertical and horizontal lines on top. Now, this attachment is being shared with you through the sponsor of this program, and you should be able to print it out and follow along with me using a pencil, colored pencils, and an optional black marker, and you can come up with a beautiful, completed cheetah drawing, just like you see here. I know you can do it. Follow along with me, and I'll show you just how. Let's go over the sheet that we have in the next video and get started with our drawing. See you soon. Today we're going to create a drawing of a cheetah, and this is a magnificent cat, and you can see here it in various poses. I love this one with the arched back and the very serious focus and the long legs, and of course they're known for their speed. Look how long the legs look here. We're going to focus primarily on the cheetah face in a frontal view. So this just gives you an idea of what he looks like. Lots of golden, yellow, orange, browns, blacks, whites, and grays. Those are the primary color pencils we'll be working with. So that's an introduction to the cheetah. Now we're going to turn our attention to the actual template sheet that you're going to be working with today. So on the top here, we have a zoomed in image of a cheetah face. The reason why we're doing that is much easier for you to have a successful drawing with a zoomed in, very straightforward composition. And you'll notice also there's an overlay of lines that create a grid, almost like a checkerboard pattern on top. And then you have another grid below with just white spaces and the numbers. Now, the numbers go together. So if you have a square here, number 1, you have a 1. You have a 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and so forth till you get to the very bottom, number 16 and 16. This is called the grid method of drawing, and we're going to use it to our advantage today to draw in the features of the cheetah face and then overlay color. So to start with, you're going to need a pencil and eraser. Once you've gathered those materials, the other things you might want is a black marker if you have it. It doesn't have to be a permanent marker. And of course, colored pencils, and I'll go over the colors you need in the next video after we do the drawing. Okay, see you soon. Okay, let's get started with the drawing. You're only gonna need a pencil and an eraser at this point. Now, if you fold your paper in half along that center line, so you see the grid below from 1 to 16 and the image above, I want you now to open it up, and you're going to take that fold up to the line, the very top line, 1 through 4, and you're going to hold that paper there, and you're going to give it an extra fold. Now, why am I doing this? Because I want to show you how we can look 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, and we're going to do that throughout our drawing. And this is going to assist you in seeing the shapes that you need to draw and to clarify what you see here goes here, what you see here goes here, and the same throughout. So let's take our pencil, and this is kind of exciting that we're actually going to start with the face, and in particular the eyes. So let's look here. This eye is sort of like a teardrop shape, isn't it? And it goes to the side. So I'm noticing that it comes down. It's not actually as big as you might think because you have that big, bold outline, but it goes like this around, like a little teardrop, or a leaf shape, you might even say. And then we have this drama of the black outline coming around. So I'm just following this, doing the same thing, and then using that black, which we're going to add later, to show off that beautiful, it's like eyeliner, right? You want the winged eye look? The cheetah's got it down cold. So that is basically the eye shape, looking very similar to what we see above it. Now right here is the pupil, and it's going to be right here along that black line. Look how dramatic that looks. Now, that's just an intro. You see how we're taking this image and we're trying to carefully sketch, and this is where you can take your eraser and come in here and make some changes if you don't like what you see. Carefully, carefully sketch what we see above. Now here, there's not a whole lot to see. It's mostly color, but we're just gonna sort of lightly create this almost like a tree trunk shape to show that little shaded area. So that's pretty simple. Let's go to the next eye, and again, pause the video whenever you need to get caught. You may want to pause on the first eye. Go here and then say, okay, now I'm ready for the second eye. So if I look here, I'm seeing that the eye comes down here, same way as before. It's not as big as we think. It's not so much of a leaf shape this time. It's more like sort of an oblong, almost like a rock. And so this is this shape right here that I just put in. Now let's do that dramatic eyeliner. So the eyeliner is going to come right up to the top, come around, down, touching the bottom of number 3, coming up. And then again, we have that dramatic wing here that goes almost over and almost to the top, but not quite. So we have to leave ourselves just a little bit of room here. So I'm going to leave just a hair of an edge, come right over here, and we're going to have that little tail. And you say, well, that eye looks bigger. Well, maybe it is, but let's add that pupil in. And now I think it looks a little more even, and this tail could even go a little bit further. So let me erase that. See, I need to erase too to get just what I want, because it goes right near that edge of number 4 and stops. So already we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 is just going to be the ear. And so I'm actually using my pencil to show me. It's just going to be this and that. Very simple, just a sort of edge of the face. We're not adding color, we're simply sketching. So get this far, and when you come back, I'll show you how to do the next row in pencil. See you soon. And we're back. You should have the first row completed, squares 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to turn our attention to 5, 6, 7, and 8. The second row, which is going to correspond with this, and it's very simple indeed. As you can see, there's not a lot of detail in that row. First, let's prepare a paper so you can compare it directly. So I want you to fold it along the line where you just did your drawing. So let's fold it right there where it says 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to be able to see the drawing. Now, open it up and take that fold right up to 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, this one corresponds with that square. 6 with 6, 7 with 7, 8 with 8. Makes it much easier to create the drawing. And this is really pretty straightforward for this next one. What do we have here? We have one thick line. That's really all we have. It starts here near the top, curves down not too far from the bottom, about here. So I want that curve to go about from, actually I want to move in a little closer. I'm going to do the inner line. So if the inner line is really about here, but it curves down to about there. So if I go like that, maybe that went a little far. Let's bring it in just a little bit more. Then you see that it's a thick line. Gets a little thinner towards the bottom, but that's all you're going to put there. Look at the comparison. Thin, a little wider at the bottom, and it's a thick black line. Here, we don't really see much. Maybe this sort of triangular shape here we can just lightly put in. And here, again, we're going to start right here at the top and then come down to about here, just trying to see about here on the bottom. And what is it going to be? Kind of a raggedy curve that starts thin, gets a little bit heavier, and that's all we're going to do there, because that's all we see. We're not looking at that first line. We're looking at 5, 6, 7, and 8. Here, we're going to just do this line, which is going to come in probably about right here. We can pull it up to see. Oh, I was pretty close, wasn't I? Here, and then we can come up and just connect that line to the eye here. And this one looks a little off, so what I'm going to do is make sure that this lines up there. So now my eyes line up, my edge here lines up, and now in the next video we'll go to rows 9 through 12. Okay, so compare what you have and be ready for rows 9 through 12 in the next video. Take your time, stop the video when needed, and then join back with me. Okay, we're already halfway done. So we only have 2 more rows to sketch in. So now we're gonna focus on row 9 through 12. So again, if you focus on folding this first in the middle, then it's a little easy to fold the line at number 9 through 12, fold that line. So you have 2 folds. You have the first fold, but now you have the second. And then just bend your paper so it lines up with the area you need to focus on. And that is 9, 10, 11, 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. So get your paper lined up with the area you need to draw next. And now, then again, we will again start with 9. Where does it start? About this far in. So we know that that's going to go out, around, and come down. Now here it's a little further, but that should work out here down to there. Let's compare. Pretty perfect. Look at that. I lined it right up. Let's go over to number 10. Now this is a great shape to put in. It's kind of like a heart shape, isn't it? And that is going to be the nose. Let's look. It's more than, if this is halfway down, it's actually just about, if this is halfway down, we know that the dip is right below there. So that's a little V dip of the heart shape. Then it's going to come up a tiny bit into number 9 and come down right on the edge of 10. This one too goes up and comes down. So it goes up, touches the edge over here, and then it comes down. So that's going to be the nose. And there is a kind of an opening here, so we're just going to put that there too. 11 is a continuation of the line. So we see that it starts right about this far away. So we start here, come down, and like that. Let's see if we matched it up. Did we? I don't know until I look. Whoa, perfect matchup, just like that. Do you see how the face is coming in? And we don't need to worry about all the shading details. That's going to come later. Now let's do the last one, which again is a continuation of the face. So we know it's going to be about a little more than halfway in, comes down, and goes like that. Did I match it up? Almost. I could probably bring it in a little bit closer. So I'm going to do that, like that. So there we go. That is the third row, 9, 10, 11, 12. You go ahead and get that together on your own drawing, and then we'll return, folding our paper again, to do the last row, which will be here. So we'll do that in the next video, but you finish up what you need to do and come back with your paper folded with a 13, 14, 15, and 16 lined up. Then we can finish our drawing. Then, of course, jump into color. Can't wait. We're now ready to do the fourth and final row here. Now, if you find all this up here distracting, just fold away that part of the paper. So you're just looking at the 13, the 14, the 15, and the 16, okay? Not much happening in square 13, just a little bit of a black shape, right? But we do have this angle coming down, I'd say about right here down to here. That's going to help create the angle for the mouth. And if we look, there's another diagonal that's going to go from 13 into 14 and 14 in to the edge of 15. So let's go ahead and do that. Now these are just diagonals. So again, think of them as diagonals, not as major things. I think I'm going to lower it just a little bit so that there's a little more room. Now right here, so that's, I'm not going to worry about the whiskers or the shading. I just wanted to get that diagonal in and that line in. Now in the middle here, we do have this sort of like roof line, goes up to a point. Then above it, we get the nose, right? And then down here, right near the edge, we're going to have a bit of a tooth. And over here on the other side, we're going to have a bit of a tooth. So again, we're not worried about the whiskers, we're not worried about the colors, just the basic shapes that we should see here. In fact, I still think this needs to be a little bit lower, so I'm gonna lower it a tad more because I think that the nose needs, there we go, more. Okay, so that's 14. 15, again, is going to be just finishing off the cheek. We have whiskers. Here we have some shapes in 16, so we're just gonna draw some of those black shapes that we see. And there's one right here above and one over here, and sort of a combined shape here and a combined shape over here. Again, that's gonna come through as shading. Now we can open it up. Oh, pretty good. So now I didn't bring that black in here on line 13, so I'm going to fold this over. And you see this little shape here? I'm gonna bring it in and take it down. And I think there's a little bit there too. Gonna bring it in, take it down. That is it. That is our drawing. We don't need to add a lot, oh, except for right here, just to finish the mouth. We don't really need a lot of extra detail. We can work with this simple detail to shade in what our cheetah face looks like. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about colors you need to get started, and then we're going to start coloring with the same folding technique, bringing one up to one, and again, if that's too distracting, fold it away so you're only looking at one row at a time. So in the next video, I'll talk about the color pencils you need, have a black marker nearby, and we'll get started with the coloring. Now is the time to talk about color in your drawing. The cheetah, if you look at the colors here, has a bit of a tan, orange, some reddish brown. So I have some browns, I have some different reds I might bring in, black and gray. Those are the colors. So if you think of the warm colors, you have a golden yellow, any kind of red you have, bright red, medium red, an orange, so those are your warm colors right there. Bring in a beige or any kind of tan color, a brown, any kind of pale gray, and a black. Now, we could also use black marker. So you have a range of warm tones plus gray and black, but the browns, the peach, the yellow, the reds, and the orange are all in the warm family. So I'm gonna keep those right next to me. I'm gonna put this aside. And let's get right into it. Now, I'm gonna bring this up to line 1 again. So we have line 1 lined up with line 1. Isn't that a better way to see what you need to do? So let's start with the eye, because that's a really impressive shape, right? So we can go right in with a black color pencil. If you don't have a black color pencil, you can definitely use a marker. But I'm just gonna do that almost Egyptian outline around the eye of the cheetah. Very dark, like this. Now my guidelines are here, so I don't have to worry. I've lined up the nose, the eye, the eyeliner, and then later I might even go back over this with marker, but right now I'm gonna keep it in the dark black color pencil. So let's start with something really exciting. That is doing the eyes. So that's why we're doing that first. Get right in here. This is the pupil. Now remember, it's not a complete circle. Even though I drew kind of a complete circle, I'm gonna make it smaller here. It's more like a partial circle. And if you wanna leave a little tiny highlight in there, you can. Already those eyes are really coming into shape and look wonderful. Let's go over to the other eye. We don't have to stay in the exact order. We can stay just in the same row. And again, we're gonna start with that beautiful black, almost like eyeliner that's happening here. And it actually covers up part of the eye, so I'm doing that too. And we're gonna bring it down here. And notice I'm putting a lot of pressure on the pencil. Typically, I don't do that when I start a drawing, but I know that this is a heavy set black around the eye, and I do want to capture that. So I'm letting myself go ahead and be heavy with the black to really focus on that eye shape. Going to come in here, do the pupil. And look at that. Already your cheetah face is coming into view. Now, let's go ahead and just put a little bit of gray in any of the light areas that you have. In fact, there's a little bit of gray around the edge of the eye. So I'm going to put a little bits of gray here and here before we introduce the orange. And the same thing over here. There's a bit of grayness going around the edge of the eye. So I'm using my gray pencil. And now, of course, what you really want to do is get into that orange, don't you? So let's get some orange in there. But I'm not going to go as heavy this time as I did before. I want to build it up. So I want to put some orange in the eye and orange, not too heavy. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on my pencil over here. Isn't that beautiful? Giving color to the eye. I'm going to take a little bit of red. And I'm just going to put a little bit of red near the pupil, that dark black portion of the eye. I'm going to put a little bit of red over here too, giving a little bit of drama. And then I'm going to take that gray again and just come in and mix it just a little bit with that orange, giving a little soft grayness to the orange. Just like that. Look how wonderful those eyes look. Really. Now we can turn our attention to the fur surrounding the eye, and I'm just going to put a light orange over here. I'm going to bring that gray back in a minute, but I'm just going to fill in lightly with the orange, very lightly. And over here, we know that the orange is a little bit more heavy in the center, but should lighten out as we go out, right? Lighten up a bit, lighten up a bit. And we're going to bring more of that gray into it. Again, stop the video whenever you need to so you can get caught up. And I'm going to bring a little bit of that red in, just a little bit. I feel like there's a little bit of red here, a little tiny bit up here, and over here, but also that gray. I feel like there's some gray here towards the edge into this eye over here. And again, coming out from the eye is a kind of grayness before we get into that red, right? So I'm going to come over here now and put that same light orange I was using a moment ago. And again, we're just working on the first row, and stop the video if you need to. It's going to come out here as a brighter orange as that line continues. And just focus on one line at a time. And again, fold the paper away if it's too distracting for you. And over here, very light orange, because we're going to make it more of a golden color. That's where that golden yellow is going to come in. And we're going to bring more of that in on the side. And over here, let's bring that gray in again. And we can make it as dark as we want. That's just the side of the face. Look how close these are. Really, really close. I feel like I could come in here and I see like maybe a little more orange coming out here, maybe a little bit of yellow. And there you go. First line done. Stop the video, slow down, take your time on this row. In the next video, we will do the next row and so forth and so on until we get this beautiful cheetah face completed. Okay, have fun. Gather your color pencils and I'll see you in a moment. Ready to tackle the second row with color? Well, we also, again, have our pencil lines in there. It's a much simpler detail here compared to that first row we did. But there is definitely some color going on. So if you want to distract yourself from the eyes of the cheetah, you can fold it back so you can just look at the lighter pale colors going on here. So this row is going to go pretty fast. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a light layer of gray filling in this first square. Very pale layer of gray. Then I'm going to introduce that black, which we know lines up with the eye above, because we checked when we did our drawing, didn't we, to make sure there was a nice connection. So we go up here and we can actually connect that even more. Then I can fold it back down again so I can look at that. And I see little bits of orange over here. So I'm not gonna be too fussy. I'm just gonna put a little bit of color where I see it. I see a little bit over here, a little bit over here, and some gray patches popping in with that orange. So we see a little bit of gray here, a little bit of gray coming off that black there, a little bit of gray over here, and just keep it light. Don't feel like you have to put a lot of detail in there. Now let's move to the center. Remember we put that triangle there? That was to show us that this sort of has an orange tone there, not too heavy. And around that, I'm actually going to continue that pale gray again. Very pale gray. Because there isn't a lot of attention over here with color. There's a little bit of color. We can get some of that peach in there to show off. We can actually bring the peach over here too for some of that color. I see some flecks of gray again and brown maybe. Little flecks of color, maybe even some red or brown, but you don't have to be heavy-handed. This is pale. Now I'm going to bring some brown in and add just a little bit of brown color over here in the corner. Anywhere I see that brown, I'm just trying to add it. A little bit over here, and then some of that yellow over here, like that. So you want it to look pretty equivalent as much as possible. Over here again, we're going to go back to our black. We know that this black should line up with the black above it, so let's double check again, and then see what we can do. We can open up and say, oh, I see, it kind of comes up to here, and there's actually a little redness in there, so we'll just get that connected. Look how beautifully that's coming. And now we can go back up here and say, what do we see? Not a lot of color. So again, a little bit of red-orange coming up from the tear duct over there, a little yellow. Oops. We're going to make it a little bit darker than it looks above, because I think we need to add a little more color here than we're seeing. A little bit of red along the edges. I'm just comparing. I'm just saying, what do I see? I see some red. I see a tiny bit of orange in there. Not a lot. Tiny bit of orange over here. A little spot of orange down here. Little spots going over there. Now come over here, and we're going to continue with that gray, but not all the way up. Because look, one of the things we didn't add, which I should have, is this line right here, because that line is the back of the cat. So let's keep our gray focused above that line. Nice and intense like before. Now, let's bring a little bit of yellow in here. I would actually color in the whole thing yellow first, then go back in and add some of these spots, these shapes here and here. And then on top of them, what do you see here? I see black. So I'm going to put some black there, some black in here, and I feel like I see some red around it. A little red over here, just a tiny bit. A little red over here. And it's much softer, so I'm going to try to soften that black with the gray to make it look a little more blurry. You see how that blurs it out? And then down here, what do we have? We have a soft black, which is part of the pattern on the fur. We have some orange. And I think a little more gray. Just softening, because it's like an out of focus shape, isn't it? We don't want to have it too dark. But we do want contrast. We do want it to separate from the background. Let's open it up and look. Whoa, that's coming along beautifully, isn't it? Look at that. And then you can look, you can say, okay, I see a little bit of black up there. Maybe a little black and gray around here. You can go back and add that, even at the end if you want. Okay, in the next video, I want you to fill out that line. And then the next video, we're gonna go back and we're gonna tackle lines 9 through 12. So I'm just darkening my gray with a little bit of black here to show a little contrast. And I'll join you back here in a minute. Take your time and join me when you're ready for line 3, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Are you ready for the third row, 9 through 12? I am folding my paper up again to give me that very easy to see comparison between the two. And this is sort of a dramatic row because it has all the nose. And again, we can fold this back to help us be very focused on this row. But we have the nose, we have the continuation of the black lines, and we have continuation of the fur. So let's get out that black and go ahead and boldly put in the continuation of the nose. And you can see you can go right back here to make sure it continues. In fact, I'll do it over here too. Then I'll go back up here and say, okay, it's black. It does have a little bit of brown and orange on the edges, so I'll come in here and I'll add a little bit of that. You see that little bit of orange on the edges there and here? And even little bits of orange, just very lightly in there. And over here, we see almost like a light orange to the whole square, very pale. Then we can come in with a gray, sort of put these lines in that we're seeing, and a little bit of black to darken some of the little shapes, and maybe a little bit of brown, very lightly, because there's quite a bit of white in there actually. You don't want to add too much color. Now here's the drama, is right in between these three squares. So let's start with the gray. If we're looking right here, this is going to be a lot of gray and slightly darker gray as we go up from here. Then it goes back to lighter, doesn't it? Then we can get in here. We see these little dots. We can add those dots. There's a certain kind of funny shape there, and that leads out to a whisker. I'm not going to worry about that whisker right now. We're just going to follow what we see. I see some more little dots over here and a little bit of that nose coming in. So here's the nose. It's a very heart-shaped form. We're going to get in there nice and dark. Really, really dark. I'm going to go right over the edge of that number 10. But we have that little light area. Remember that little light area? It looks like a little tent or a little triangle right here. We're going to leave that, not color it in. But we are going to add a bit of that black up here and blend it with the gray to show that kind of shadowiness on the nose. And a little edginess there and here, but very, very dark. We want that nose super dark, sort of like a dog's nose. Above it, we see a bit of gray. I'm going to put a pale gray all over this, in fact, before I come back. And I see a little bit of yellow, maybe a tiny bit of orange coming back into this, and a tiny bit of orange there, like that. Over here, that's the orange we see coming down. I'm going to use a little bit of very pale yellow here. And then I'm going to look for these little rough edges to add those in. with some gray. On this side, there's not a whole lot going on. There's a light yellow, not much at all being seen, just very, very pale, right? And then we have these shapes coming in. I just treat them as shapes. I don't know if they're freckles, what they are. They're variations on the fur. And I just want to show that. So just look at each square independently in order to get what exactly they're doing. Let's go over here. Again, we have continuation of those shapes. There's an orange shape that starts over there and continues over here. Another kind of amorphous organic shape there. And remember, this is going to be the fur. The fur, I'm going to put orange down for that fur. Then I'm going to bring the black in. And remember how we made it look fuzzy by putting gray in it? I'm going to do that too in a minute. But first I'm going to get the black shapes in where I see them. Here, up here. There's one down here. And then I think I might take a brown to do this one. Sort of a brown and an orange. And then to soften it all, I'll put some yellow in here, just to soften the color. And now the gray. The gray is great for creating that more of a fuzzy effect on those black shapes. You don't want them to feel like they're really strong. You want them to feel fuzzy. So I'm taking the gray around the edges to make them feel fuzzier, not quite finished. And I'll put a light gray in here. Then I'm going to come back with the orange and just kind of put a little more orange on top of the yellow, continuing that fuzzy look to the shapes. Little fuzziness. Open it up and let's see how we're doing. We're doing pretty well here, I have to say. I can definitely see the fur. I can definitely see the contrast. And you can see how you could even go darker on some of these parts too. So this is looking pretty good. In fact, I'm seeing a little bit of grayness coming down here. So I'm going to try to do that. And then this could be the last line that we're going to do. So we're pretty close to getting finished. So you finish up the third row, 9 through 12, and then meet me back here so we can do the last dramatic row, which is 13 through 16. See you soon. We are at the last row now. This should be pretty quick. There's a lot of detail here in the mouth, but we'll get to that. Let's start right over here. Again, is there a lot of color? No, not until we get to this corner right here. But right now, I'm just going to lightly put some gray, just a light pale gray. Come in with that black. What do you see around it? Do you see that kind of orange halo around it? So let's do that. Let's do a little orange halo. Bring it out a little bit. And then get in there with the gray to soften that black again. We want to keep that black very fuzzy, very soft, not causing a lot of drama. But when we get over here, we're going to really pay attention to that triangle that's really going to be black with some white stripes. Now, it's hard to bring out white stripes. You can go in there with a color pencil, but I can tell you, you can see right now, the lines aren't going to show very well. So if you have a white pen, that would probably be a better option. Or try to work in a way that you leave some lines. Like you see I'm doing here, I'm trying to leave some white areas so that some of the whiskers can be visible. Then, again, just focusing on this shape here, we see a lot of orange, a bit of gray. The more you can get yourself to focus on that one little area, it's going to help you. And I'm just continuing the gray over here. And
down here, I'm going to start with gray and then I'm going to add black because it's right before where the teeth come. It's going to be a darker gray. Then I'm going to get in there with the black because the mouth is a dark area. Let's move on to number 14. Almost the entire shape here is very, very black. Why? Because it's the interior of the mouth is in shadow. So we're not going to see a lot of color there. We're just going to leave a little bit of white, which will probably be gray in a minute, down here. You see that little bit of an edge there? That's what I'm putting in. I'm going to go around the teeth. And now above it too, very, very dark. Still part of that nose. So if we look in a minute, we're going to see that we want to connect it right here with the nose, like that. Then if we come back up, the teeth are orangey yellow. Why? Because it's an animal. Animals eat. They eat meat, they eat raw meat, they eat food. They don't eat and then brush their teeth. So their teeth are going to be slightly colored. Don't be afraid to put that color in. So I'm putting a little bit of gray over in these areas. I'm going to come back in with the orange that I see. See a little bit of orange. I see a little bit of orange over here too. And then I'm going to continue it actually into the next square, except for that area where it starts getting dark. Then I'm going to try again to leave some white areas to suggest the whiskers. Over here in number 15, we have some orange shapes again, kind of coming over here. And another one sort of connecting with the one over here. And I'm, again, just going to use that pale, pale gray to fill in the background. Add a bit of brown to some of the shapes here. Ooh, that's black. I wanted brown. Here we go. Just a little bit of brown. And those whiskers, you could even come in here with an eraser and leave some lines that suggest whisker shapes like that. So there's not much happening there. Most of the activity, again, is in the last square where we get back into the animal's fur and that fuzziness that we've been creating with the gray and the orange. So I'm going to get in here, first put some heavy black, but then I'm going to go back and I'm going to soften it with gray, soften the edges, because every one of those shapes is very fuzzy. And then I'm going to bring the orange in and soften it further. It's not a dark orange, but around the fuzzy edges it gets a little darker, right? Right over here, right over here. Like this. Right over here. Going up there. And my goodness, we are almost done here. I can get in there with some of that peach finally and soften the center, make it a little bit lighter. Maybe even just a little bit over here. Let's open it up. That is looking amazing. Look at that. And you can come back in here and you can look for little areas. I say, okay, I think I need a little more brown in there. I need to go up here a little bit. And you can just go in there and add what you think you might be missing. But then the other thing you can do is finally, we haven't really used that black marker at all. If you really want to get some black, you can come in here and say, well, I want a really intense black around those eyes. And I can go right in with my marker over the color pencil. I wouldn't do every inch of the color pencil, but I would just kind of say, okay, that's where the intensity is. I really want to show that off. So I'm going to come in here and do a little bit of marker. Try to leave room for those whiskers again. I really want that mouth dark. I'm gonna come in here and darken that mouth around the teeth so I can really, really see the darkness of the mouth. You can come into the nose, which is probably the darkest thing in the whole picture. Like that. And then come into the other eye also, darkening that. This is a choice. It's not a must do, it's a choice. And then of course, really darkening up that pupil, leaving just a tiny highlight can really bring out the eyes. Look at that. Isn't that amazing what a difference it makes? Then you can even go in and say, well, you know, that shadow is a little darker around the nose. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. You can go in and do those details. So go ahead, finish up your picture. Can't wait to see, I wish I could see, how your work turns out. But you see how focusing on a small section of this cheetah makes an amazing drawing? And a much more successful one, I think, personally. Because I think trying to do a whole cheetah body would be a lot, unless you're a very experienced artist. Okay, well done. I'll see you back in a minute to conclude. Have fun and take your time. Okay, so when you're done, there's a couple ways you can complete your drawing. One way is to cut the whole thing off like this. And to show how the image above was the grid image you used to create the drawing below. So they can see your reference and your source. You can totally do that. You can mount this on colored paper and you can get a really fantastic image just showing people how you worked from the top to the bottom. Another way, which is what I'm going to do right now, is to simply cut off the bottom picture like this along that nice dark black outline. Center it on a nice sheet of construction paper. I actually would double mat it. If I had a black sheet right now, which I don't, but if I did, I would double mat it. I would first glue this onto a black sheet of paper, then I would do blue or orange or yellow or something to pick up on the colors in my picture. Now I don't have that right now, so I'm gonna be happy to put it just on this blue, which is rather dramatic. I'm just using a glue stick to hold it down, and look at that. You end up with a beautiful, beautiful cheetah face that you created using the grid system. Look how similar they are. Fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this drawing today. I certainly enjoyed sharing with you the techniques that artists use to create drawings that are fairly realistic like this. So this is Doris Benter of Library Arts saying, keep creating, stay well, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.